and I'm gonna break him down. I'm gonna stop him. I'm gonna hurt him late.
When someone grabs for your belt before the fight,
1 second they're showboating, grinning at the cameras, playing to the crowd like the fight is already won. The next second, they're staring up at the lights, blinking in disbelief as the referee waves it off. In combat sports, respect isn't just tradition, it's survival. And the moment a fighter decides it isn't in their playbook, the ring has a way of teaching them a lesson the hard way. Because showboating plus disrespect only ever leads to one inevitable outcome: knockout. You can almost feel it building before the first punch is thrown. The trash talk gets louder. The promises get bolder. I'm going to break him down. I'm going to stop him. I'm going to hurt him late. The words hang in the air like smoke before a fire. Anthony Mundine strutted into fights like a man possessed, sitting on the ropes, daring opponents to touch him, promising to cut this boy up and remind the world he was still the man. There's confidence, and then there's tempting fate. When he stepped in against a 43-year-old veteran and couldn't land anything clean, the bravado drained fast. A minute and a half into the first round, it was over. Just like that. The man who promised domination was left with nothing but echoes of his own words. And then there was Ricardo Mayorga, a straight-up rock star in chaos form. In the lead-up to his clash with Shane Mosley, he turned the build-up into a circus. He disrespected Mosley publicly, crossed lines you simply don't cross, even bringing Mosley's wife into the mess. But Mosley? He stayed cool, calm, focused. Inside the ropes, the difference in technical skill showed up like a spotlight in a dark room. Mayorga clowned, taunted, tried to lure Mosley into a brawl. But every left hook Mosley landed chipped away at that rockstar persona. You could see the moment it changed, the instant Mayorga realized he was in deep water. When the final left hook detonated and the referee stepped in, the act was over. Karma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just lands clean on the chin. Chris Arreola took a different approach. Pure aggression. At the press conference he turned it into a spectacle, promising violence, promising destruction. At the weigh-in, the threats didn't cool down. "You're going to remember me." He swore he'd ruin his opponent. But inside the ring, promises don't throw punches. When the heavy shots started flying back his way, when the legs stiffened and the head snapped from clean counters, the narrative flipped. He had vowed to destroy. Instead, he was the one trying to survive. In heavyweight boxing, it only takes one sweeping right hand to rewrite everything. The man who guaranteed chaos couldn't cash the check his mouth had written. Vic Darkinian, the Armenian knockout artist, rode a wave of destruction for years. He crushed opponents, predicted devastation hours before fights, promising to destroy and smash whoever stood across from him. But when he faced Nonito Donaire, something shifted. For the first time, he was in there with someone faster, sharper, more precise. You could see it in round one, the right hands landing clean, the timing just a fraction too quick. And then came the left hook. The shot that changed everything. Darkinian had never been dropped before. Never tasted that kind of vulnerability. But when he hit the canvas and struggled to rise, the myth cracked. Donaire didn't need to talk. His fists did the storytelling. Jermaine Taylor once stood tall as a two-time middleweight champion, dripping with confidence, daring anyone to question him. But boxing history has a cruel memory. Against Arthur Abraham, the swagger met granite. Right hands found their target. The balance disappeared. And when Taylor hit the canvas, it wasn't just a knockdown, it was a reckoning. You can scream about legacy. You can boast about belts. But when the punches start landing, there's nowhere to hide from physics. In MMA, the script repeats itself just as brutally. A young Dricus du Plessis was provoked on purpose by a veteran champion who tried to get in his head before the bell. Words were exchanged. Pride was poked. But when the cage door shut, du Plessis answered with a tight guillotine choke that silenced everything. Disrespect met technique. Ego met consequence. And sometimes the spectacle borders on absurd. The so-called Russian version of Conor McGregor strutting, dancing, soaking in pre-fight theatrics like it's a stage performance instead of a fight. But when the bell rings, the dancing stops. 3 clean strikes later, it's over. Swagger doesn't improve your chin. Juan Manuel Marquez once faced a disrespectful opponent who promised to walk through him, to take his belt, to prove he was delusional. Marquez didn't flinch. He waited, timed, measured, and when his left hand landed, it ended the argument mid-sentence. In boxing, there is no greater humiliation than being knocked out by the very punch you swore you could handle. Then there's David Haye versus Audley Harrison. Harrison talked about destiny, about becoming the new heavyweight champion of the world. He painted a picture of triumph so vivid you could almost believe it. But once the fight started, he barely threw a punch. Haye, sharp and ruthless, closed the show in round 3. The build-up was fireworks. The reality was silence. Across promotions, across countries, across weight classes, the pattern never changes. A fighter spills water at a press conference, shoves, taunts, promises to destroy someone. Another vows to embarrass, to dominate, to send a message. And sometimes they do. But far more often, the ring humbles them. A jumping flying knee, a crushing right hand, a perfectly timed counter hook, a choke locked in so tight there's no room left for pride. Combat sports have a memory. They remember every insult, every shove, every promise shouted into a microphone. And when the cage door locks or the ropes tighten, the sport collects its debt. It doesn't care about your followers. It doesn't care about your press conference performance. It only cares about what happens when leather meets skin. Because in the end, karma in fighting isn't mystical. It's mechanical. It's the space between arrogance and preparation. It's the split second where a fighter thinks he's untouchable, and forgets that the man across from him has trained just as hard, bled just as much, and heard every word. And when that punch lands, when the taunter falls, when the crowd gasps in unison, it's not just a knockout. It's a reminder. Respect the craft. Respect your opponent. Or the ring will do it for you.